Hello again guys, and welcome back to another Big Al Devlin video here at the House of Devlin. And as you've seen, probably a little bit of a clue at the beginning of the video, this video is all about how to fight a zombie, because this is of course our countdown to Halloween. So these videos are just purely fun, that's all. And there are some rules to the game, and I want you guys to feel free to play along with the game, how you would kill a zombie or defend yourself against a zombie as well. And I want you to share those thoughts and feelings and what your ideas and so on and so forth in the comments section below. And if you have any other monsters that you want me to describe how I would personally would fight, then again in the comment section below, I'll try and look and try and spot them and go, oh yeah, that's a good idea, I never thought of that. We have a few on the list already, including werewolf, vampire, mummy, things like this, but if there's anything that I may have missed, then please feel free to add them. Just no ghosts, guys. I ain't a ghostbuster. So the only rules of the game are basically that you can only use medieval weaponry or medieval weaponry that could be improvised at the time, ultimately. So that's the only rules that we have, and what I do is at the beginning of the game, for each creature, set the parameters of what we're fighting, because of course Hollywood has put out a multitude of different creatures out there that are all the same thing but work slightly differently, and zombies are one of the most varied out there. You've got the slow zombies from like Day of the Dead and all the rest of it. You've got the super fast zombies from 28 Days Later. You've got things in between. You've got I don't know. I mean, and actually, you've got the oldest of them all, and I would classify him as a zombie, and that would be Frankenstein. Now, I will be covering Frankenstein in this video, but I'll be doing it at the end. At the beginning, I'll be dealing with your classical Day of the Dead zombie. That is super slow, super dumb, rotting corpse that is coming at you, trying to eat your brains. How do you defend yourself against such an attack, and how do you reciprocate? How do you stop them and kill them? Now, we all know about zombies. What do we know is that basically they die when you destroy their brain. Anything less will not kill them. The only other thing that will kill them is to burn them completely to ash. Okay, that's the only other thing that I know of that will kill them. Okay, so taking their arms off, causing them to try and bleed out, removing essential organs, things like this will not kill them. However, there is a point to be made about organs, and I'll make that later, because they still do depend on their organs to some extent, and I'll, as I say, explain that later. So how would I defend myself against a zombie? Well, first of all, again, slashing weapons, piercing weapons, i.e. swords, things like that, knives, anything along these lines, again, become kind of useless. These weapons are fantastic against living individuals, okay, because they cause you to receive cutting or edge attacks, edge wounds essentially, or which we can call a cutting attack, a laceration essentially. And if the laceration especially is over an artery or a major vein, then what happens is they cause you to bleed out. Okay, they can also be used for decapitation attacks or dismembering your opponent and stuff like that, but that takes, first of all, incredible amounts of strength, incredible amounts of skill, a bit of both combined, and sometimes a bit of luck also. And against a zombie, dismembering or decapitation, well, decapitation would be useful, but dismembering isn't as useful against a zombie as it is against a human being, because that zombie's still going to be coming up and trying to attack you. Now, the only other thing that we know about zombies that will be part of this particular game is that if they bite you, they will turn you into a zombie. Okay, and you need to take that in consideration, because basically if you get up close and personal with these guys, they are possibly going to make you one of their own, and that's not something you want. You don't want to be a zombie. Maybe some of you do, Maybe some of you are zombies. I don't know. It's probably feel like it if you're watching this early in the morning, or have a particular hangover. Sometimes there are times when we feel like zombies, but we're not zombies. Okay, but that's the one and only other thing about this, is that if they bite you, you're fucked. You might as well be dead. You might as well finish it, because if not, you're joining their ranks. Okay. Unless, of course, you're curious to see what it's like to be a zombie, in which case just stop that and go, okay, I'm going to be a zombie now. Have a bit of fun. I'm going to position myself whilst I'm still alive next to someone I really hate, and then suddenly go all zombie on them without them knowing. Okay, so how would I deal with a zombie attack? Well, I have to first of all take into consideration the fact that if I get bitten, I'm a goner. Okay, so I would want to wear some form of protection. Full plate would be great, but where are you going to get it, and where are you going to get it to fit you? No idea. If you go to the local museum, they're 3/4 sizes. Even if you get full size plate mail, it's not going to be fitted for you. You're probably not going to be able to put it on. And also on top of that, it takes 2 people more often than not to put full plate on, and it takes special, training to, squires are trained to help knights put on their armor. So full plate is probably something you're not going to be wearing. Okay, chainmail, however, is just it's like a shirt, so you just put it over your head. So, and if you happen to have some, like I do, then I would definitely 100%. First thing I would do is put on some chainmail, because some form of protection is better than anything. And the fact that my chainmail isn't riveted but butted, so it's low quality chainmail, doesn't matter, because the only attack I'm worried about are teeth, and teeth cannot bite through steel. Whether it's riveted or butted or anything along those lines, it doesn't matter. So I've got chainmail, which protects my torso. However, the only problem is that most of the time the bites are going to be on your extremities, like your hands, or possibly even your legs if they're crawling along the ground. So you need to try and wear like steel toe cap boots. 1, because it allows you to kick them, and 2, because it stops your toes getting nobbled on, essentially. And I would wear, heavy denim material like clothes, protective clothing, essentially, as best as I could get my hands on. Obviously, it's a limitation, isn't it? But if you're in the medieval times, absolutely, a gambeson. That would be great, especially one that covers your knees and stuff like this. So protection would be really my first and foremost thing that I would look at, because I don't want to join the zombies. But then I look at how to kill them. Well, they're relatively simple to kill. You destroy the brain. That does not even mean that you crush or destroy the skull. You just simply destroy the brain. To destroy the brain, you simply have to apply enough pressure here that the brain when you get hit on the side of the head, the brain continues, hits the skull, and basically crushes itself against the skull. Now, it's harder than it sounds. I mean, I've been hit by a truck at 52 miles per hour and got hit on the back of the head, and I'm still here. Yes, I got a bit of brain damage and all the rest of it, but I'm still here. So that alone would not actually kill a zombie, what I went through. Believe it or not, it might stun them, but it won't kill them. Okay, and so it will be harder than I think you imagine. The other thing is, not only is it harder to destroy the brain than you think, even with specialist weapons like warhammers, maces, mauls, which are essentially 2-handed maces, morning stars, these kind of weapons, I would still heavily say this. Now, you and me, well, I'm used to the stench of death. Okay, I trained as a doctor. I worked in the dissection theatres for many years, and I've smelt it all. I've smelt stomachs that have ruptured. I've smelt guts that have still got shit inside. I've smelt rotting corpses. Most of them have been preserved, but I've smelt the odd rotting corpse. And I can tell you this for 100% certain. If you have never smelt death before, that is a dead body, you will be overwhelmed by the smell that is surrounding the zombie. Alongside that, the zombie will be surrounded by flies, okay, and will have maggots coming out of it, and so on and so forth. So this zombie is dangerous not only with its bite, but also with its own flesh. If it bleeds onto you, or if it touches you and gets some of its sort of juices into you, because it will be putrefying, what we call putrefaction. So it will be, getting juices, shall we say, into your mouth. If it grabs you around the face, okay, it might not bite you, but if it does that, you could still pick up a serious illness from these juices, essentially. And so getting close to a zombie is really dangerous, and that's why I focus so heavily on armor. I cover my face with a scarf, so my mouth and my nose is not covered. It is covered just simply so I can reduce the amount of smell that I'm smelling, because even though I'm used to the smell of death, it's still overbearing and overwhelming, and some people, it actually makes you faint. Okay, so you don't want to faint when a zombie's coming towards you. So make sure you can cover your face with either a gas mask or a scarf at the very least, something just to protect you against the kind of things you don't necessarily think about. And also the flies are going to be a problem. They're going to be buzzing around, and they're going to be mostly focused on the zombie, but they might then focus a little bit on you. You don't have to be swiping them away. You're just going to have to ignore them, because your sole focus is going to have to be on the zombie. And that then comes to the killing of the zombie. Well, we've discussed how dangerous this zombie is up close and personal. One, zombies tend to be very strong. Okay, they seem to be stronger than the average human being. I don't know how that's the case, but they do seem stronger than the human being, because you can see them dismembering human beings, pulling arms out of sockets with relative ease, and their heads off necks and stuff like this. That takes some degree of superhuman strength. So, especially if they swarm you, because remember, zombies tend to come in swarms rather than as an individual entity, then yeah, it's very possible that they're going to overpower you. So getting up close and personal with something that can overpower you has the smell of death around it, the stench of death. It's rotting, it's full of disease and corpulation, and on top of that, if it bites you, converts you to becoming a zombie, you are losing so far badly, even with the very best protection that you can find and put on. So you're going to need some serious weaponry to deal with these guys. The first thing I would say is still defense. Barricade yourself. Okay, zombies are slow, so use your mobility to your advantage to strafe your opponents, okay, to kite them essentially, and to move from one location to another, go from one building to another, whilst these moronic creatures are trying to follow you. Get them to do it, then get out of their sight, and then go behind them and either attack them from behind or just get out of there. Okay. Because that's the one thing about zombies, is they are stupid as well. They typically are very stupid, so you can easily outsmart them. And the power of the mind, the power of intellect, is something of probably the most potent weapon you have against them. The other thing is then defenses. Find a building, barricade yourself in, and set up as many defenses as possible, whatever they might be. Don't just barricade the windows, set up active defenses like spikes and barbed wire and stuff like that. It's not going to barbed wire was not in medieval times, but metal spikes in the ground or wooden spikes in the ground was, you could dig a moat around you, things like this. Anything to make it hard for the zombie to get to you, because it's not going to be able to think, oh, to get into that building I need to build a ladder to get onto the roof and then go through the roof. It's not going to think like that. Okay, so you can outsmart your zombies and hopefully outlast them. Who, I don't know, can they starve to death? That sometimes has happened in films. They can sometimes starve to death. So I would try and play it intelligently. But if I was forced into a corner where I had to defend myself one on one with a zombie versus me, what weapon would I choose to have by my side? What medieval weapon would I choose to have by my side? I would again want to employ. Well, first of all, I would want to kill it from a distance. Okay, most medieval weaponry is obviously designed to kill your opponent up close and personal, or it's a bow and arrow or crossbow. Okay, bows and arrows and crossbows are to some degree useless unless you're accurate, and this is the point. Bows and arrows are useless unless you can actually hit the zombie in the eyes before it gets to you, because a zombie in every single pop fiction setting that we've seen them in rely on their external sensory organs to be able to detect their prey. Now, they're going to possibly have a heightened sense of smell, so they might be able to smell you, they can hear you, and they can obviously feel you if they're close enough. But if you take their eyes with a bow and arrow, for example, or preferably a crossbow, because that may go through the eye socket into the brain and kill them anyway, then obviously you've got a double whammy effect there. But if you can take their eyes, that's one good thing that you can do. However, what I would want to have is something with fire. Okay, now fire was not necessarily a weapon used in medieval times as a weapon as such. Buildings were often set on fire, people were incinerated for being witches and so on and so forth. Fire was definitely used in medieval times, but fire as a weapon against another human being, no. Fire arrows, for example, didn't really exist. They're created by Hollywood, so and it's been disproven many times that having fire arrows, for example, would actually be more detrimental to yourself and to the weapon's ability to kill than it would have for any other purpose. And so, what I would suggest is, when I think it was the Knights Templar or the Knights Hospitaller, for example, they had to defend, I believe it was a fortress in Malta, and they defended it against the Persians, I believe. I should have really researched this before, but off the top of my head, basically there was a knightly order that had to defend against, I believe it was some Muslim group they defended it, and they succeeded despite being heavily outnumbered, if memory serves me correctly, by using fire. They had flamethrowers, believe it or not. And I kid you not, they had flamethrowers. They were siege weapons, and they were fixed positions on the walls where they could literally spray burning oil onto their opponent. Now, I can't see how you couldn't create, using medieval technology, a form of Molotov cocktail, i.e. getting a bottle of wine, sticking some cloth in there, setting it alight, and throwing it at the zombie. That, I know, bends the rules a little bit, because Molotov cocktails are more of a modern weapon, but it's a weapon that you could definitely use using medieval technology. In that case, what I would do is I would try to attack the zombie with fire. Now, there's good reason why I've done this. Firstly, fire burns flesh quite effectively, especially when there's clothing and stuff like that. It can do a lot of damage. It takes time to do the damage, but the damage is very intense, to the point where it can burn through muscle and it can start affecting the bone. So you can start to affect the integrity of the rotting zombie in front of you. Rotting corpses tend to burn even better than humans, because of course they're rotting. Okay, so they've got a lot of stuff on them that just wants to burn anyway. But here's the other thing. I don't know. This is a weird one. Do zombies fart? That's a question for you. If zombies don't fart or belch, then their stomach, when you die, becomes very distended, typically. unless you go to obviously like a funeral directors and get embalmed. But typically your stomach will become very distended because of the accumulation of methane, because the food in your stomach and the food in your guts that were there when you died rot and produce the methane, and they've got nowhere to go. You don't burp, you don't fart, you just literally accumulate it. Occasionally corpses fart, by the way. So some of it does get just literally forced out, but a lot of it will stay within the gut. And so my intentions with the fire attack would be simply to try and set them on fire, to ignite the methane in their stomach. If that could happen, it's a lot of speculation here. I'm trying to think of different ways of killing these kind of things. If that would work, then it would simply ignite the methane within them, and it would blow their abdomen to pieces. It might take their hip bones out, or certainly take them out of position at the very least, if not completely take them out. And as a result, then you've got a legless zombie with really just a rib cage and up. Now, at that point, the zombie's still fairly functional, still able to crawl towards you, but it's far less mobile than it was before, and it wasn't mobile before. At which point, then you come up with your weapon of choice, which would be some form of mace. Okay, again, I would pick a bar mace like I did against the skeleton, a 12th or 13th century bar mace, which is 3 to 4 pieces of metal literally just stuck together, and you just hit them with a really big piece of metal basically, and I would just crush their skull. As I say, if I couldn't do that, then I'll try and outsmart the zombie, lead it on, and try and get behind it, and then simply hit it from behind. I would never, ever, ever, unless forced to do so, attack a zombie from the front. In contrast, for example, with the skeletons were very light, so I'd have no problem attacking them from the front, because I can just bash them around and pick them up and throw them and stuff like this. A zombie is going to weigh the same as a normal human being, which is fairly heavy, so they're going to be hard to throw around, and they seem to be stronger than us as well. So I don't want to get into a wrestling match with a zombie, especially with all of its problems of infection and disease, and of course its bite. I don't want that. And so I'm going to want a quick and clean kill, and that's exactly how I would achieve it. Now, Frankenstein. That's the standard zombie. Frankenstein is a zombie that has been brought back, not by a biological entity such as a virus or bacteria or whatever reason they give, or the wrath of God or whatever that they've given in many movies over time. Instead, Frankenstein was brought back to life through having several of its body parts accumulated from different corpses, sewn together, and then regenerated via electricity. They were brought back to life, essentially. His heart was brought back to life along with the internal organs and everything, with electricity, with a lightning strike, as I believe it was in the book written. Now, this creature was quite a big creature. I mean, he's often typically presented as being well over 6 foot, near enough 7 foot in height. He's incredibly powerful, capable of tearing a man to pieces really with his own bare hands. I'm not meaning instantly, but he could literally, crush you quite effectively. Essentially, think of the Mountain in Game of Thrones, and that's pretty much what you're going up against, except he hasn't got a sword and he's not skillful as a warrior. He's a bit slow and ponderous maybe, but he has the mind of a psychopathic killer. Okay, so this guy has no real guilt. He will kill you, although he does actually have guilt in the book. But there we go. I mean, we're not going to go into the morals and ethics of creating a creature from several body parts. But essentially, a creature like this is going to be far more dangerous than your typical zombie, because yes, he is slower than you, but he's a lot more powerful than you. He's not as slow as a normal zombie, and he is not rotting. He is in a living, stable state. He is essentially a living creature. He's not a dead creature, he's a living creature. And so with him, what I would say is, well, he's a living creature. You kill him like you would kill any living creature of that size. There have been men far bigger than Frankenstein that have been killed. You get a crossbow and you shoot him straight in the heart. If that doesn't work, you get another bolt, shoot him again. Okay, you then take fire, which he seems to be afraid of, and you set him on fire. A torch, literally, just a torch, set him on fire, which means you have to get close, but you know, whatever, and you just set him on fire, and jobs are good on. Frankenstein would actually be a lot easier to kill than your standard zombie, even though on paper he's far more dangerous. Other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed that little discussion. Please, as I say, feel free to comment in the comment section what you would do against either one of the scenarios that I presented to you there. Any ideas, please share them, and happy Halloween.